I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation, and Andrew Kuo does not take days off. Tell him why you're so happy today, Mr. Andrew Kuo.
Oh man, it's a full weekend of photoshopping your boy Joe Biden's face onto Allen Iverson, stepping over Tyronn Lue as Donald Trump. Just like every minute, just making another one, man. I thought
it was crazy. You weren't able to successfully copy and paste them, so every time you posted it, it had to be a fresh Photoshop.
Mm-hmm. That was happening in between photoshopping JB's face onto LeBron James, blocking the shot of Andre Iguodala, who is Donald Trump.
And yes, group economics himself. You were also the one who photoshopped the crying Jordan meme into Donald Trump's face, correct?
Oh, at least 25 times, man. It was incredible. What a weekend.
So, I like that the weather just got good.
I know. Everyone's like, there's no mistake. There's no coincidence that the weather's good now. I'm like, is there no coincidence?
No such thing, boss. I mean, 4
yes,
years
my
ago,
favorite sports team won. Yes.
The Knicks re-entered the NBA in the restart. 4 years ago, it was such dismal weather. I remember walking down the street and just feeling like so gross. It was just pouring outside in gray. And this was like the most beautiful gift from global warming we could have imagined.
Hey, 9/11 happened on the most beautiful day ever.
That was a great day.
It's that. I can't even joke about it.
I was about to say, well, you also always hated the World Trade Centers.
Oh, yeah. Nice one.
Sorry. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Sorry. I retract that.
Interns.
Where were you when the results got announced? Because we knew what was going to happen for a couple days. But the moment when the media said, okay, fine, it's obvious, we've waited long enough, it's almost happy hour, okay, boom, it's over. Were you aware of like that moment unfolding?
I'm a filthy, dirty hipster, so I thought it was called when the nerds called it maybe like Thursday night, perhaps, maybe Thursday afternoon. It was around when the math people were like, it's over. You can, like Nate Silver went on ABC that night and was like, you can have a beer, do whatever you want. There's no way it's going to end up being Trump. So I stayed up on Friday night until 7 a.m. waiting for just someone to call it, like I have been. And I went to sleep, and my wife woke me up at 11 being like, they called it. I'm like, that's awesome. And I woke up and watched it with bleary eyes, and I was pleased, man.
Yeah, I knew what the results were going to be because, I was looking at the numbers, and I had this little site that was kind of a scraper, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Nice.
And it just showed the tabulations on all of the states coming in as they did, and they would just re-upload them. So I wasn't really watching TV. I would just go back to that, and you'd look and you'd say, oh, there's no way that Trump is possibly going to win Pennsylvania or Georgia based on the numbers I'm seeing here. So I wasn't really stressing it for the same reasons as you. I was driving in my car, and I remember got like a text message. I was like, oh, just called it. And I started beeping my horn.
Oh, you were one of those, huh?
Well, I
will not raise taxes on
no. But no one else had gotten like the message in that like 1 minute. So people were like, who the fuck is this dickhead? I'm like, and I just kind of stopped and like quietly parked my car. And then people were starting to look at their own phones and like yelling from windows and stuff like that. But there was like a minute and a half when I was beeping and everyone was just staring at me like this guy sucks.
I feel like if I was walking on the street and I saw you if I was in your vicinity and you were honking, I'd be like, something good happened. If someone was knocking on a pot and pan, I'd be like, it happened. But if there was a ton of choppers, I'm like, oh no. Like that's not the sound I want to hear.
If it was Chopper City,
If it was Chopper City. It's been Chopper City in the Lower East Side a little bit.
I know. I mean, the cops are really going Chopper City with the protests going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really into, like, the way these people on TV talk about it. I love, like, the way they frame it. So I've been watching a ton of Fox, and CNN is cool, MSNBC, whatever, ABC. So I was really sad that I missed the moment because I was waiting for the moment. So I was really frustrated but happy, and it was a weird day. Like, I got a bunch of texts from my friends who don't really usually hang out much anymore because of kids and work and stuff, and they were like, should we just meet up? It feels like a day where we should just like hang out. And we all met up. It was a confusing nice day.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It was kind of a spontaneous street party everywhere in New York, I would assume, in most cities that have enough population density to do that kind of thing.
But did a dance party break out?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere.
I mean, that was the headline for 24. It's like, a dance party broke out. I'm like, yeah, well, that makes sense.
There was
it a
music?
rave, though? Was there
Was there
ecstasy?
music?
Yeah. Was there ketamine?
Yeah, I was over in the park, and there was a shit ton of people. There was probably like 1,000, 2,000 people in the park. With like a
Which park were you talking about?
McCarran Park in
Tight.
Williamsburg.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it was tons and tons of people there. And also that was where people met up before a lot of the BLM marches, so it also felt natural to do that in that place. It was nice. There was people playing music. There was a band out there. It was very chill. It wasn't like crazy. But there was a couple school buses with guys like dressed in mesh dancing on top as the night got, a little more rambunctious. So yeah, it was a really fun, memorable night. I think to me, it was kind of more fun than when Obama won, just in terms of like the energy. It wasn't necessarily as hopeful, but there was like a release of 4 years of anger and helplessness and sadness that kind of came out at once versus just being excited about Obama being the president. I mean, I don't know. I guess it was you had 8 years of George Bush. I don't know. To me, it just felt a little more like this is a party than Obama, but that was fun too.
Yeah, it's however you want to do it and talk about it. Like, I'm so annoying even to myself. I exhaust myself, but when it happened, I kind of scurried to the people that I could talk to about like numbers and how it went down and how the electoral broke down and what we could talk about. I just immediately wanted to pod, basically. I did no celebrating. I had like half an IPA on the street. But I just really wanted to talk about stats. I was just like, how did this go down? Like, what did we miss? What did we get right? It was a fun day of like 3 hours of just like, what are we looking at? What is fuck you culture? What is a reaction to something? Can we go back in history?
I just took 2 bottles of champagne to the park.
Yeah. I mean, again, I annoy myself, but it was really cool to talk about something that has been settled. I was like, we won. So, like, let's relitigate this and, like, what did we learn? What did we get wrong? It was awesome. It was a cool day.
I think the energy sapping out of Donald Trump really happened with the call itself. Mm-hmm. And he's still bitching about, ballots. It's a ballot truthing.
What else does he have? He's got to do it, right?
I mean, he doesn't have to. But, of course, true, it being who we're speaking about, he has to.
Yeah.
Because this is what he does. And there's no surprise there. It was nice to see all of our predictions about how he would behave were absolutely accurate, absolutely true. They telegraphed their entire gambit from the jump. Don't mail in your ballots, go to the thing. Oh, we're not going to let you count until the day after, and then we're going to say they don't count. It was, they telegraphed the whole thing.
Yeah.
He, of course, rejected the results that were not in his favor. Like, we knew he was going to do this.
As he told us he would.
Yeah, so...
Coney Barrett, man. He knew he was going to lose.
I mean, everything came exactly in the manner in which we predicted it would unfold. He's still up there bitching and moaning, but it doesn't have the feel of a crisis at all. Maybe something will happen, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It was, you realize that this fucking bozo, who we've always known as a fucking bozo, when he was elevated with the power of the office, that he was the president of the United States, he became like a scary, powerful fucking bozo. And with that just sapped away, that in 2 months he will not have the power of that office, you're like, oh, that's right, you're just a fucking bozo. Oh, you're a bozo with no military. You're just a bozo. You have nothing. So that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I have a healthy dose of cynicism in me. So, like, I think what we've learned in really quickly, I think, even day to day in the last 4 years, is like, it all came out when we had to go through this week with this bozo, as you say, like, shooting his shot. And, like, the cynic in me, you know, like, when he gave that press conference and basically said he won the election and to stop counting, no fourth quarter. We play 3 quarters when up by a couple baskets.
But he was losing at that point too. That was the great part. There wasn't
There
wasn't even a theory.
Yes, count the votes here, but don't count them here. And, like, you know, I really love the way some people frame this on TV, but mostly it was a lot of shock and pearl clutching and whatever you want to call it. And I'm so cynical. I'm like, well, of course this was going to go down. He telegraphed this. And, you know, people on TV have to say this in order to maintain kind of a story that they've been working on for, you know, generations. But I was like, come on, man. Like, let's not listen to this dude anymore.
This is not normal. I cannot overemphasize how dangerous this moment is.
Yeah.
You're like,
but I appreciate that. Whatever.
I get it.
You know,
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. But it was funny as shit. It
Yeah.
was a broken man giving his version of a concession speech, which was, I've been grievously mistreated.
I know.
It's so unfair. Just everything's unfair. And then he kind of slouched off. And Anderson Cooper had a great line there where he said he was like what do you say, a turtle that had been flipped, an obese turtle that was flipped on his back and
which
in
is
the hot sun.
which is
good line.
Which is interesting because he came back the next day and apologized, and it didn't make news, but I somehow watched it. He was like, "That's not who I want to be." I don't know why I said that, but I mean, before we mock that, I'm like, I agree. Like, that was a bad joke about something that we've already accepted. Like, if we got up here and railed against Donald Trump, we would sound outdated already, right?
I mean, I think he just shouldn't have body shamed. The rest of it, looking like a turtle on his back in the hot sun, sure, that's great. Say what you want, man. Who cares?
Yeah, maybe what I'm saying is like that's why I didn't have the urge to like party, because I'm like, I've already like used so much energy into magically thinking this moment to happen that I just want to talk about it and sleep for a while. Like,
You've
I don't
already experienced it many times over. Like, we're celebrating for the first time. You have been having this exact revelry for 4 years straight.
Well, it's like I don't have enough ketamine to dance on his grave. I'm like, but like we're all fucking dead, you know? And I'm just like, is there enough ecstasy for me to like be happy? Yeah, a little bit. But when Anderson Cooper did that, I was like, it seems outdated, man. It seems it seems like you're wearing like Allbird shoes. You know, it's just like it's something that we've moved past already. I think I'm not even sure. Allbird, shout out to.
They hadn't even called
kink.
They hadn't even called it yet. Give him his fat turtle joke. Come on.
But he came out and was just like, that sucked. And I was like, not for the reason you think. I just thought it wasn't a good joke. But yeah, whatever.
I just
I'll
thought
take
it a little too much body shaming.
Turtle shaming is Carmelo Anthony. Like, yo, listen.
Not cool.
Don't marginalize me and Jason Terry.
I feel like, I don't know, I kind of teared up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
After it. And it was really out of, like, rage.
I'm not surprised at that either, but
It was just, like I was tearing up. Like I hate that guy so fucking much. Like I had to deal with this, and America had to deal with this, and many countless people in worse ways than myself who are far more endangered. But still, just the fact that, like, fuck you for making us have to worry about you for 4 years. Like, just fuck you forever for that shit.
I love the debates going on, the predictable debates of like, but how angry are you? You're not angry enough. And I'm just like, pretty angry, man. It's just like, no, you're part of the problem. Not angry enough. Like the Danny Meyer tweet, which was like, basically he paraphrased Biden's speech, being like, hey, man, we all have to like now talk a little bit. Like, no, you're not angry enough. You're canceled. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing now. Can we just like not do this for a second? But
the thing
no.
is, I find Donald Trump funny. I think he
too.
does hilarious shit.
Yeah.
It's not even like I just see him all the time and I'm like, I hate you so much. That happens sometimes. But in that moment, it was just this like force of like, just like, you, dude, you suck so bad. We spent 4 years of our lives dealing with just garbage because of you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt that way too, man. When it happened, I was like, fuck out of here, man. Out of here. Like, out of my brain, out of this White House, just out of our fucking lives, man.
I mean, I just want him to leave office and pop enough shit so he gets banned from Twitter and just not have to think about him. I just don't want any more Trump-related bozo real estate in my brain being inhabited.
I know.
The bozo section, as it's called. The bozo cortex.
I mean, you know, there has to be a villain in the NBA, and there has to be someone like Trump, but he's just like so disappointing as a villain that I'm just like, he doesn't even, I just can't find really a way to like frame it where any other way than I'm happy with the results. I'm very happy with the results, man.
I mean, I did not like the results down ballot particularly well. We'll see what happens in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we potted about the outcome when it was pretty much decided, but I just, yeah, that moment that sort of crystallized, like, it's actually over, which is funny because it should have been called like the day prior.
Yeah, and they were just messing with him. Me and you were texting about this. They were just messing with him, kind of, because, you know, he telegraphed all these lawsuits with your boy Giuliani and Handsome Boy Landscaping School. And so I think when Fox, you know, declared Arizona correctly, it turns out, you know, and to Trump's ire, I think the other networks were kind of fucking with them, being like, oh, yeah, we're going to see this to the end. Trust the process. You know, like they kept on saying trust. Shout out to Tony Roten. But it was just fucking with them, you know, because they knew these lawsuits were going to happen. Like, well, would you like us, since Fox misplayed that hand, like, would you like us to count or not count? Tell us what you would like us to do, because we're not calling this because we're going to count every vote.
It felt like it was being milked for ratings a bit too. I don't know if that's actually accurate, but it felt that way. That they're like, well,
there's no reason to call it.
Let's just keep rolling.
Yeah, if there's lawsuits happening and ratings, to your point, there's no reason to call it. We were glued to our TVs or, you know, scrapers.
I could be wrong, but my understanding of Philadelphia was that they were trying to hit the amount that would basically exclude the possibility of a recount. Mm-hmm. So that does make sense. Although you could have just kept counting anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you could have called it and they could have just kept counting the ballots. Like, that's what's happening in Alaska. They're still counting.
Yeah. Nevada. How do you say Nevada?
I just say Nevada, but that's probably wrong.
Yeah, I've never moved away from New York, so I can't tell how bad my accent is.
Why don't we just use like a Spanish pronunciation, like Nevada?
Nevada. Yeah, I like that.
It's fine. You know what's weird about being from upstate is there's a couple places with, I mean, New York has it too, like Houston Street. Okay. So I guess it's not Houston Street. I guess it's Houston.
Yeah.
Rochester has a couple areas outside of it. One's Charlotte, but it's Charlotte. Don't know why. Sure, Charlotte.
When I see British television, they tell me to finally chop the charlottes.
The only
The Charlotte Hornets, as they say.
maybe it's really the Rochester, Great Britain connection. One thing I do like that I've borrowed from British is calling lemon seeds pips.
PIPS?
Yeah.
PIPS, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
pips. Pips. It's nice.
That's very nice.
Seeds makes them sound noxious.
Yes, pips is a much nicer word than seeds.
Yeah, get the little pips out of there. No big deal.
When I'm hungry, I used to say it as a joke. Now I say it not as a joke, that I'm peckish. I thought it was an awesome way to say that because I'm a little bird picking out those little stats, deflections, assists. But I'm peckish, man, at 4 p.m. every day.
I use peckish. I'll use supper on occasion.
I love supper, and I know that's pretentious as all hell, but it's such a cool word. I'm like, what would you like for supper? I love it. I love it.
Same. Yeah, now you can start using pips.
Pips. Well, can we start talking about Johns? Because our bros in Philly really came through for us.
It was great to see Cosmo Baker, who I've been to many of his parties. He used to do the rub out of
Shout out to Cosmo Baker.
what was it called? Out of Southpaw in
Oh, wow.
Park Slope.
Yep.
With DJ Ayers and DJ 11. I went to that party many times. It was the early 2000s. They were connected with like Holotronics and Diplo and was it
Spank Rock.
Spank Rock, Plastic Little, like that whole Philly crew.
I love that stuff. Yeah.
And then there were like great hangs, good parties, good music, super fun.
Fantastic music, man. Just like advanced shit at that time.
So it was very cool to see Cosmo Baker DJing his set outside in the street while the votes were going on inside, and he had like thousands of people around him dancing, and he was live streaming on Twitch. That was cool.
It's cool, man. And I'm a healthy dose of cynic, as I said before, but I was really happy for our bully Johns down in Philly coming through for us like we thought they would, like we always thought they would. But I was just like, and I think I texted this to you, I was like, can us Tim Duncans get a little bit of credit though? New York and California just pour in 50. It's like, hey, I dropped 50, so if you can just like score 15 points, we got this. But we need you to score 15 because I've used up all my fouls and I just average 50 points every election.
We're just prom kinging it up.
It's like
dropping 40 electoral votes, whatever, just prom king shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Georgia, thank God you're 10? 10? You put up 10?
Yeah.
Cool, like I like it. It's great work. But like, you put up 10 points.
I
Like,
think
do some numbers.
the reason I thought of Tim Duncan is I think he gets harshed in the all-time conversation because his winning moments were uneventful. There were no game winners because either he won by 10 or Ray Allen shot him down. But he was an uneventful winner.
I will say though, even though I agree with you to some extent, a little bit, that he falls into that category of centers that I was talking about last week, where he was a very good offensive player, very good, but was not spectacular. He was a spectacular defender, one of the best big man defenders in history. Offensively, he was good, and then they sort of phased him out. And
changed, yeah.
They became more about ball movement and Parker and Ginobili. Like they updated their game away from post play. And you look at Tim Duncan's per game averages. Yeah, he was 2010 guy for much of his career, impressive. But like he was not an offensive genius in the way that offensive geniuses are, like a James Harden. But because he was so good on defense and because his teams won, we think of him as being an incredible offensive player. When like he was good. He wasn't nearly as good as, say, Kevin Garnett on offense.
No, his highest OBPM, the tiny green hand, was 5.4. So you're right. Like you're talking about James Harden in the 7, 8, 9, 10s. Like
again, he was really good. I'm not saying he sucked on offense, but he wasn't even the best player on that team offensively for a lot of their run. I mean, that was Manu.
Yeah, it's so difficult because no Duncan, no Manu. But if Duncan's there. He could maybe create. No, Manu's unique. I don't know. But, yeah, I have Tim Duncan in my top 5 of all time. Among the 10 players that should be top 5 of all time.
Right, among the top 15 who comprise the top 5.
Always. But I was excited for Philly, man, because, we're invested in Philly. They came through for us. Everything worked out. It was as predictable as like a spike in coronavirus. It was like, this is a trend line that we know too well now, but in a positive way.
I've been feeling a bit more pessimistic about coronavirus. I mean, obviously national numbers are up, but you can just sort of sense it coming back a bit in New York. Like, just feels like indoor dining. People are a little more cavalier. Super spreaders up and running. You're like, shit, man. But we did get some good news. And it's that Pfizer has a potential vaccine that could be effective in 90% of the cases. That's huge news.
My 90s ass brain is so confused because I'm rooting for politicians and pharmaceutical companies. What is happening? 2020 is fucking weird, man. Where I'm like, get at 'em, Johnson and Johnson. Like, out of here with these guys too. But I desperately want this vaccine, and today was great news, man. 90% effective. It needs to be refrigerated in a very cold state, so they need to mobilize like military help. The other ones that are being developed don't need that, so there's going to be a ton of them on the market in like 6 months, I think. A ton, maybe like 4.
Pfizer had said in October that they weren't going to make any announcement on a potential vaccine until mid-November. So, that's what they did. But of course, Republicans, Trump sons, were furious. Donald himself celebrated and just pretended that he was still president. I mean, he technically is, but I mean, he just tweeted like, "Stock market up." It's like,
yeah, buddy. Something happened this weekend. I'm not sure what. But.
It's like, stock market up, vaccines here, everything's great. Like, someone compared him to George Costanza, just showing up for the job that he didn't have anymore, just pretending.
Costanza is a king. Donald Trump is a clown. But yeah, and I was watching Fox this morning when the Pfizer stuff happened, and they're even kind of talking about it. Like, they're like, well, Pfizer openly denounced Operation Warp Speed, so like we can't really pair the two. Sure, it's on his watch, but also Pfizer was the one company that was like, we don't want anything to do with the government. We're just going to do this by ourselves. But now they need military help, so that's where the White House is like, well, without us and the commander-in-chief, you can't get this to people. It's like, that's true.
Did they suggest when it could start getting rolled out?
A few months, they said. Apparently this vaccine, I just read, this vaccine is like really easy to do. People had it really quickly. It's the safety issue that's taking forever, and there's no way to speed it up. So Operation Warp Speed was always a joke because you just have to wait, sort of like with the election. You just have to wait to see how these people react, but they had it pretty quickly.
This reminds me of after, the official call was made by the lamestream media.
Not like Cookie Soups on Patreon.
No. Very different. The nicest moment, I thought, was when everyone in New York basically took off their masks, threw them on the ground, and we just started laughing because, like, the hoax worked. I can't believe it worked. Like, we did it. We faked a virus for 8 months to get this guy out of office, and it actually worked.
Down in the Lower East Side, it was up in flames from all the hand sanitizer that was being lit ablaze. Everyone just brought out their Sanny and just like lit this place up.
Trust the hoax. But that is great news from Pfizer. And to your point, there will be other ones on the market. But I saw some graphics showing, Zoom stock plunging.
Time to buy Zoom stock, right? This is so. There is no smart people out there. It's just we're all just like, reacting like, well, the Patriots are going to win because they want it more. Like, yeah. No, Simbin. Oh, fuck. I think it was too late. It was too late.
But yeah, we'll see. I mean, having a 90% vaccine, as a medical professional, I can tell you, that's a lot. That's 9 out of 10.
That's Steve Nash
9 out of 10.
free throw percentage, man. That's
a
not
lot.
bad. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. If someone told me that 90% is okay but not great, I would have just said it's okay but not great. But apparently it's really good from what I've been told.
I'm excited. Were you reading headlines that like Trump was calling this race over? And I was like, which race? The Asian? Chinese? Am I okay? I kept on misreading it and like, I don't know. I think about like the way people talked about what they voted in polling. And polling's all we have, you know, like if it's noisier than ever, but people are noisier than ever. And if we don't have polling, we have nothing. So I'm pro polling, but it's like they were saying this vaccine and this coronavirus was maybe like second on the concern list for Democrats and third on the concern list for Republicans, from based on what I heard. And I'm like, but it affects everything, right? Like the economy's in the toilet, not because of this coronavirus. And then we see this vaccine, and it's right on time. Like you said, Pfizer told us they were going to do this. They telegraphed it. But Zoom stocks are down today. And it's just like such a microcosm of like our zones, man.
And, you know, also predictably within the DNC, you're already having like the infighting. Like the left is to blame for us losing moderate seats in suburban white neighborhoods. And then AOC responding to that by saying, hey, I tried to help. You guys rejected me. You've been hostile to me. Where I helped out, people won. And where I got rejected by centrists, you lost. And I talked a lot about this last pod, about how dismayed I am typically by the message of the Democrats. But it was particularly galling to see black people come out and carry the Democratic Party to the presidential, election in Detroit, in Philly, in Atlanta. And then have people say, well, the John Kasich's, the ones that Ernie Johnson's, they're the ones who won this election for us. Like, could you misread this any worse? It's like actually like deeply offensive to say, okay, we just saw how this happened. We need more outreach to kind of like would-be Republicans. That's what we need. How about you reward the people who won this election for you? How about that?
It's confusing. Ava Longoria got into trouble last night for, she did not credit the black community as much as someone wanted, and she had to issue an apology, and she was Tony Parker's ex-wife, and it's not for being Tony Parker's ex-wife. That's fine.
I apologize for being married to a Frenchman.
A champion, also a prom king, maybe. We'll get to that later, Tony. But I think, it's, last pod I was like, the question of whether, I always ask myself whether politics is for me. It is when it's important, and I think it's been really important for a long time, maybe. And maybe that coincides with my adulthood out of like my freewheeling, spontaneously dancing days. But I think it is deeply not for me because what AOC is right. What AOC said is right. And the results that we're getting and the data we're getting, we'll be getting more for a year and a half, a way to frame what happened. But this kind of infighting with splitting hairs of your stance and calling people a certain thing within the party, a name, a faction, whatever. It's like I have basketball for that, and I'm gonna still follow politics for sure because now I have a taste for it. But like, it's deeply not for me because I think by definition the definition I have of politics is this kind of bickering that never ends.
That's true. At the same time, I mean, I'm certainly on AOC's side in this particular discussion because I don't really know what centrists even want particularly. I just view it as a kind of moral void that is basically swapped out for supposed pragmatism instead of people defending what their actual beliefs are. And that's my problem with centrism. Say what you want about National Socialism, but at least it's an ethos. That idea. I don't agree with anything that white nationalists say. I don't agree with evangelicals, but at least they're coming from a point of view. At least there's a perspective. And there is at least some code, no matter how hypocritical or vile and repellent, that they are at least subscribing to. And with centrism, I just don't get it, because if you're a centrist Democrat and you're saying, well, Black Lives Matter, that hurt us in some suburban neighborhoods. Okay, well, so what's your takeaway then? What are you suggesting? Are you saying we should have, when I say we, the DNC should have, condemned the largest mass demonstrations in American history? That they should have been opposed to that for electoral triangulation? Like, is that's immoral? So at least make your argument on the merits of your position and not on electability, not on, oh, well, we hemorrhaged a few like suburban whites here. Maybe we should have really supported the cops more. Like, make your argument based on it being right or wrong. Don't base it on electoralism. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, and a lot of that rings true to me. And where I say politics is not for me is like, I don't think anyone's 100% centrist. I actually don't think anyone's 100% anything. And it's sort of like when I hear sports fans saying like, well, if X is so great, how come they didn't win a championship? I'm like, well, not many people have that binary stat, because only one team can win of the 29 teams in the NBA. So I get really exhausted when I hear an argument between AOC and people. I like her quite a bit, but kind of parsing these political words and this political language, like, well, centrists, show yourselves. And it's like, well, people kind of like orbit these ideas but grasp onto other orbits when they need to. And Never Trumpers kind of had to change their story, and I love it when Republicans kind of vote Democrat. And I think it's interesting when Democrats decide to vote Republican. And like, this happens all the time in sports. And I think I accept those terms, and I kind of accept those terms in politics too.
Yeah, I just find that centrism itself is just kind of concern trolling as an orthodoxy.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it has elements of everything like that, right?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking specifically of when there's this distaste for leftist ideas, and so many times it's under the guise of, well, of course everyone should have access to healthcare, but like, how would you pay for it? Like, by raising taxes. And, oh, well, but how would it work?
Yeah, I
like
have to tune those people out.
Like it does in Canada. Okay, but how would you pay for it? It's like, just have convictions. Say what you believe. If you don't think we should have health care as a universal human right, say that. Say that.
I don't need people to say it, though. It doesn't. I hear you. I'm gonna move on from the people who are like, what about? Who are basically arguing. It's an argumentative technique more than a thought.
That's what I mean. It's concern trolling. It's literally pretending to agree with something while always poking holes in it over and over.
Trying to own somebody's point,
Oh, of course I believe that, like, Sam Hinkie's doing the right thing, but what about losing culture?
Yeah, people like, you're culturally liberal but fiscally conservative. How dare you? And I'm like, very vague ideas going on. Like, I think somebody who's like, what now? I'm what now? Okay, I'm that. Oh no, I don't want to be that. I'm like, yeah, it's like everything's more fluid than the boomers want. Like, boomers want us to be like, you are a centrist, you are an originalist, you are this. And Coney Barrett's like, well, the originalists probably didn't really imagine a woman in the White House, and I'm sure she's not opposed to that. And I just think it's like some Michael Jordan stuff or some Bill Russell stuff. I'm really looking forward to the Zoomers kind of just like flattening that idea out a bit and being like, oh, it's kind of more fluid than ever,
I guess my major grievance overall about the DNC is that it's never time to embrace leftist ideas. Never, never. Not before the election. Heavens no. That could cost us. Right after the election, within an hour of it being called, absolutely not. They should be rejected now. There's never a time when there should be real conversations about ideas that are associated with the left that aren't even actually leftist. You know, you look around the globe. Public health care is not some leftist fantasy. China, UK, Canada, I don't know, Kazakhstan, they all have it. They all have it. These are very different types of political systems. They all have it. Like, there's no reason for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to reject public health care. But it's associated with the left, so therefore, no, we can't do that. That's a leftist idea. No, it's not. No, it's not. Like, it just is here. That's kind of my thing, that there's never time for these ideas because there's never time to embrace the leftist side of the party.
I always think about what Trump is like in his private circle. And I'm sure he's like, why can't I be like President Xi? Can't I just declare myself president until I die and then appoint one of you guys to replace me? And they're like, that sounds good. It'll never fly. It's like, well, why not? Other countries do it. It's just like, that just doesn't work here. And I think a broader scope of healthcare is like very virtuous, and I hope to see it. I don't know if we will. Like when you were back in the day when you were playing Mario Kart and you were losing by a ton. Someone turtle hit you with a turtle, with a Bonzi Wells, as they say, and you were losing. And in a fit of rage, you reset the Super Nintendo or the Nintendo 64. And everyone's like, oh, man. It's like, well, it's better for me because I'm not losing. It's not, but we're not better off as a whole because we have to restart the game. But at least I'm not losing. This election had like kind of a flavor of that, being like, yes, we're no longer losing with Donald Trump. But now we're starting over at a place that we're all familiar with because we've had 8 years of Joe Biden and with him being VP with Barack Obama, and we kind of know his policy. Now he's going to reform the policy, and then we're going to run the race again. It doesn't feel like a progression, but it feels necessary, if that makes sense.
It's just 2004.
Yeah, but it's necessary. We had to do it.
Well, I mean, these were the options we were presented with.
Yeah.
I feel like the most disappointing thing about this moment, despite being at Joe Biden day one, weeping tears of joy that Joe Biden was the president of the United States. Finally, after 40 years, he made it. But, it was that the pendulum swung from George W. Bush to Barack Obama, and that felt significant. This was a pendulum that swung and stopped directly in the middle. We didn't get like, oh shit, we got Bernie Sanders. At least after 4 years of hell, we have a chance to really make changes. It was like, no, back to several decades ago. I mean, Joe Biden is essentially like 1960s Republican, which by what I mean is they were slightly more to the left of like most Democrats today. Like, you could probably make an argument that Richard Nixon was more left than Barack Obama. You could probably make that argument. And that's kind of what we got. We just got like a traditional Republican is in office now.
Just to maybe pump up Biden a little bit for some optimism. I think he is, like everybody, capable of change, and it's been many years, 4 years. A lot happened in this 4 years, and I think his message, his core, is essentially the same, but his actions will be different just in its nature itself because the parameters are different now. So 4 years ago, he had a stance on like a possible outbreak of a virus. Well, that happened, and now he can't go back in time as a time bandit, as some basketball players do. But I think he's encountered with these new set of issues. So what he does will look different and has to be different just by its nature.
I think you're right. I also did get a sinking feeling when I see names like Rahm Emanuel floated for cabinet positions. Just like, oh, right. And like, to be honest, these aren't even, for the most part, Obama people that are surrounding him. They're Clintonites. This is Clinton's team. It's not Obama's. It's not even Biden's own. These are Clinton people who just had to ride a different horse back into the White House.
Yeah, it's company men. We're back to boomerism. The boomers won.
Damn
It was a
boomers,
win-win for boomers this week.
The defense was kept so honest.
It's like
So many corner threes were hoisted up.
after the Knicks did what we wanted them to do with investing in young guys, they're going to sign Paul Millsap for $20 million.
I know. When you successfully trolled me by comparing Bidenism to the process, when you deviously set me off.
The critics of the process who want to see results.
I was thinking about that, though, from a team building standpoint, the same way you were just mentioning the Knicks. And it's like, all right, the Democrats are promising wins. We're going to get some wins. We're going to get that 8th seed. We're going to get you back to the playoffs. Everyone's like, yay, back to the playoffs.
Are you happy now? We're here.
Oh, yeah. It sucks. We're maybe going to be an 8th seed, but at least we're not losing.
Yeah, at least we're not the laughing stock, and we're out in the first round for 10 more years.
No, that's exactly how I felt about Joe Biden becoming president. Like, woohoo!
Yeah.
8th seed.
There was joy, and there was an immediate, oh boy. It's like,
I saw so much Biden merch. People wearing shirts with big flags. I mean, certainly it's not as good as the merch from the Cookies Hoop store.
what is?
That goes without saying. But I hadn't even seen a Biden hat or poster or sticker.
I saw
in
some
all of
tie-dye.
I hadn't seen them until yesterday. It was people had their hidden Biden stuff, and all right, this is the one day you can wear it. Like break out the Biden shirt that you got because you donated or something. But I had not seen any Biden merch for months. Not even like election day. But people they were flying their Biden freak flag freely.
It makes me think of one of my favorite holidays. We can finally say Christmas again. Or maybe we can't. No more Christmas. But it's like Christmas trees and elf hats, which Santa Con's the worst, but I love Christmas. Don't get it twisted, Ben. I enjoy the holiday of Christmas. And whatever you do to celebrate is awesome. But the next day, December 26th, it's trash. I'm like, get that fruitcake away from me. Get this eggnog out of my face. And that's kind of how I feel about celebrating Biden. If we had potted Saturday, I would have been like, we did it. But after a few days, I'm just like, okay, here we go, man. I don't want to hear about the kumbaya moment was so high and it was so peak. And now the hangover from that is like, oh.
No, Joe Biden, if the other day was Christmas, Joe Biden is the tree.
Yeah, man.
Still around here in mid-January, huh? All right, I guess we still got this tree in charge.
No.
A Christmas tree should be removed and put in the trash the next day.
If you can, man.
Anti-whist. Why do you got a Christmas tree hanging out for New Year's? What are you doing? Turn it on every night?
An hour ago, it was the most beautiful thing. I was like, I love this tree. I love Christmas. And then it strikes midnight. Get that thing out of here.
Oh, you got a fire trap sitting in my living room, huh?
Tinsel. It's like Joe Biden's gray hairs. His silver hair. Yeah, man. But I don't know. I don't want to sound too cynical. I'm happy, but cynicism is good. It's for. Did you watch Chappelle on SNL?
I missed it. How was it?
It was okay. So I am a Chappelle super fan. I think he is one of my favorite people I've ever heard speak in my lifetime. I equate him to whatever generations call their favorites. Chappelle's there for me. It was okay. In terms of Chappelle, I think he had an off game. He scored 18 points, not very efficient, had a couple nice deflections, key deflections, but overall he's done better.
Was it because of what had happened earlier that his brand of sort of smoky gallows humor did not play as well on a day when everyone was, or at least half the electorate, was ecstatic about the results of the election?
That could be it. So his Letterman special came out this season, and it was amazing. I think I talked about it on here, but just quickly, like, it was kind of a reveal. He talked about the scene in the Chappelle Show that made him quit. He talked about the way he felt about it. He talked about money. It was incredible. I really enjoyed it. And so I went into it not knowing where he would go. And thankfully, he went into the direction I wanted him to go. I was like, are we doing a comedy show or not? And he kind of like roasted these things that were taboo to roast. So like too soon kind of. And I thought it was a good idea. The jokes didn't quite hit, but he admitted right away that he was a little nervous because it was such a moment of gravity. I think when he gets emotional, it's like very peak for me. I just really love his way of thinking. He did a little bit of that, but in general, he was like, I want to do a comedy routine if that's okay. And I thought it was cool, but it was the wrong time, I think.
That's been a common critique of comedy during the Trump era. And, we saw that with the Four Seasons landscaping fiasco. Like that's funnier than
triumph. It's a triumph.
Like that's funnier than anything you could have written, and it was real. I mean, that's the kind of
so good.
That's the kind of dilemma that comedy writing has in the Trump era, when Alec Baldwin isn't remotely as funny as the actual version of Donald Trump.
This is true, and Jim Carrey's not remotely as funny as Joe Biden. Maya Rudolph, funnier than Kamala Harris. But I agree. When reality is science fiction, then what is science fiction?
Yeah, I mean, the landscaping thing was just insane. It was incredible. I mean, it came out today that one of the guys they brought up to speak, who had claimed that he had seen tampering, was a sex offender.
Oh,
just incredible stuff. I mean, Rudy Giuliani he's crushing it. Just absolutely crushing it lately. It is is peak Rudy right now.
I know. This is like, say whatever you will about Rudy, and I can't believe he was our mayor, America's mayor, I mean. But he's probably pretty pleased today because all these guys want is like relevance, and people are listening to him. This is going to last for a little while longer, and he will be gone. But like, this is what he wants. He's back to having front page attention like he had during 9/11. Like after the almost 2 decades after 9/11, like, I think he had better intentions in that era. But he got older. His brain kind of took a walk a little bit, and he probably.
I don't think he ever had good intentions. Rudy has always sucked deeply.
He's always sucked.
He's an awful, awful man and was an awful mayor.
But presented with the problem of 9/11, he was just like, okay, what? I am the man, but what do we do? Now he's just like causing ruckus, right? It's like a different action, I think. And he would probably claim it's the same action, but it's not. And he's got attention,
he's
right?
just, what at this point, legal counsel?
Well, he's probably trying to save America in his mind. He's delusional, right? So he probably thinks he's saving us from a corrupt process, which he isn't. But if he wakes up every day and thinks that, like, that's a big deal for someone like him, right?
I can't tell with Rudy, and it's not even worth trying to tell. If he just views this as part of just a grand, funny scam that he just, all right, Rudy's coming down to bark at the press. Oh, networks called it. No. Does he actually think that there's been corruption?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't tell if Rudy is a true believer. He just might be, as you said, a clout demon.
Oh, yeah, totally. And that's enough motivation. I had opted out of him.
I think he is, right? Because he just has his consultancy. He just wants to make money. He wants to have clients. I think he's just a clout demon. I don't think he actually looks at Donald Trump and is like, oh, yeah, this guy's really competent. This guy's great. I think he's just a probably someone who drinks a lot of whiskey and wants to make some money and wants to be on TV.
Yeah, it's like, the Russians want to meet you. It's like, oh, it must be important. I'm going to take that meeting.
Oh, Rudy time.
What do you have to say? Well, they trust me with this information. Yeah, I tried to opt out of him, but then he does hilarious stuff like that press conference at the Four Seasons, and I'm back in. It's like it's just too funny to ignore.
One other piece of news beyond the whole leader of the free world being ousted. Congrats on selling Supreme for $2 billion.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Congratulations, and I accept it.
That's a big come up for you.
Oh man, more perfect pods with all that cash flow now. I think. Remember, it sold for $500 million.
But was that only half?
Yeah, it was weird. It was a first step into a bigger deal, and the other shoe dropped. I remember having this argument, not with you, someone else. I was like, 500 million sounds very low for the collateral they have as a brand. And someone's like, that's a lot of money. I'm like, no, it has to be. I think I overshot. I was like $3 billion. But that brand is worth it, right?
Sold for 2.1, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I never know what anything's worth.
This is, yeah, me too. Yeah, fair.
Like, okay, what's the New York Times worth? $2 billion also? Okay. What about a tech company? $7 billion? I don't know. Sure. Like when...
Evaluations are very noisy.
Yeah, when, was it Snapchat turned down 3 from Instagram and, / Facebook. And everyone said that was dumb, and then it kind of crashed. But now its valuation is way up because the stock went up, even though it isn't popular anymore.
Yeah.
And now it's valued at, I believe, far more than that. So I never know how these valuations work. It's obviously based on the money you're making and how sustainable it is. But yeah, when it comes to companies, Supreme is a huge one. Mm-hmm. Supreme sells a lot of merch. Not as much as the Cookies Hoop store,
but who does?
But a lot.
I love Supreme. I love what they do. I think I've always liked their strategy downtown back in the day when Lafayette was like 555 Soul, the Keith Haring shop, DJ Honda.
I was about to jump in with that.
That was like my youth, man. Like, hanging out in front of Supreme before security guards was amazing. Zoo York, like all my favorite stuff. And I love what they do. And I think if I had to like guess how old Joe Biden would be, I'd be like 150 years old. And if I had to guess how much Supreme would be worth, I was like, is it $10 billion? Is it $20 billion? Or is it 2.1? Valuations are tricky. Like, don't Google, or maybe Google Bitcoin and Tesla, because the joke is like those are scams, but the stocks are very healthy.
But that's what I mean about valuation. It's like, is Supreme worth as much as the New York Times? Like, I don't know.
I don't know that question, but I love.
I have no idea.
I would like to do a standalone pod just with that question, and every week it's just like, is it more valuable today? It's like, maybe. Did you see that drop? Yeah, I don't know what generates action in 2020 anymore. It's confusing because I always think about technology, and then I think about brick and mortar, and what is Supreme doing? But all I know is everybody cares so much about that thing.
And valuation can be monumental for companies that don't even make money. Like, that's the tech sector. It's like, lose money until you get a potential monopoly within a marketplace, and then bring in tons of investment.
Yeah, also the art sector, contemporary art, that market is all speculation, right? So, and I believe it. If someone's like, hey, I don't think your tech company is worth your evaluation of $1 million, and then someone comes through like Steve Ballmer and is like, actually, I'm willing to pay you $5 million, and someone else like is like, ooh, if Ballmer's in, I got 6, 7, 8, and it becomes a thing. And it happens in the NBA draft, right? The way people talk about it isn't reflective of the thing ever.
Speaking of the NBA draft,
Draft?
we are 10 days away from free agency, 10 days away from the draft, and potentially
The real November surprise.
a month and a half away from the NBA coming back,
NBA
which
season?
seems
NBA
crazy.
back? This league?
So the prospective date that the NBA wants a restart is December 22nd, and players want to push it into January, I believe. I don't think there's a huge difference between what the players and ownership wants. It only seems to be a matter of weeks. But I don't know if this will include a 50-game schedule or it's going to be abbreviated in some way. But the timetable is interesting. If you are someone who is a member of the Lakers or the Heat, you have basically no offseason.
Okay, I'm the bald eagle. I'm Caruso. I'm chilling with my trophy, replica trophy that every player gets, I believe, in front of my pool. I'm thinking about Propecia, and they're telling me I have to go practice. Practice. Play game? What? We just won a chip. You're not gonna let me revel in no parade? I gotta go back to work?
Like, quick turnaround.
Yeah.
But if you are a member of, say, a relegated team, like a
Easy.
Mitchell Robinson,
Step
you
lightly here.
haven't played in 9 months. So it's a really crazy difference between the guys who just played and guys who are on teams like the Hawks or any of the, what was it? Out of the 29 teams, how many didn't make it into the bub? Like 10?
Oh yeah,
More?
I forget.
I forget exactly. But anyway, a third of the league hasn't played in 9 months. And it's funny because, KD is kind of on his regular schedule, and now everyone is on that schedule.
Yeah.
He blew out his Achilles. He was supposed to come back this season. He's only coming back 2 months later than he was supposed to. Mid-October, mid-December, no big deal.
Clay's
But
ready.
But if you were Trae Young, you haven't played in 9 months for no reason. Just like, you just didn't get a season, dog. Like, it's crazy.
I heard December 22nd versus later in January, February has approximately $500 million at stake with TV deals and viewership. And it just makes me annoyed that there's a salary cap, because if you're asking Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to come back after they just gave us these wonderful games not too long ago, it's like, you're back and you're going to be tired all season because you haven't had the rest as kings like Frank Ntilikina. I think it's like, some people might say, well, you get paid handsomely, so you should do what your company tells you to do. I think it's safe to say Cookies thinks that, like, they should get a bigger piece of this pie, right? Like, there's almost no price to the value of LeBron James. This evaluation is bigger than Supreme, in my opinion, his evaluation and what he brings to the table. And making him play again, and some people might be like, well, he makes thousands of dollars every second on the court. And I'm like, well, he should be making more, man. I think, like, we just have to rethink these things. I'm excited for the NBA to start. And tough for the Asterisk champions. That sucks for them, actually. But, yeah, let's go. And I just really want to see the players' union kind of be like, you're making us do this, so, like, when we renegotiate, we want better terms.
The fact that the owners get half the money is just beyond obscene. Just obscene. They don't do anything. They don't do shit.
Yeah.
They're just rich dudes who own part of this as a company. It's, other than Michael Jordan, it is crazy to think that of all the great players who have turned this league into what it is and the sport into this international phenomenon, other than Michael Jordan, not one of them, like, owns it. Not one of them owns as much as, I don't know, someone who just bought a team, like the guy who just bought the Brooklyn Nets. He has a 1/30th of the NBA. He owns it.
Yeah.
Zero sweat equity, nothing. Just had the money, he owns it. These guys who, like, AI, LeBron, all these guys. Larry Bird, the legend.
Grant Hill tried to buy, a team recently. I forget his team. Yeah, to your point, we don't. I don't look up enough. So when like Bernie Madoff goes down, or they try to take down Abacus Bank, for the one bank they try to take down is a Chinatown bank, right? And I'm like, well, what about Chase and Citibank? It's like, oh, all banks are bad. Abacus. I'm like, every time we get mad at something trivial, I'm like, who lives in that penthouse up there? It's that nameless person that's just like conducting their business as usual.
I mean, I'm just talking about Psy because he was like a recent owner. Or we could talk about the guy who just bought it in Utah. Whatever. I just mean people who've done nothing. Done nothing and like, hey, here's some money. I'm an owner.
Frittata,
like,
man.
It's like, Frittata. Like, oh, AI. Oh, he doesn't own a cent. Doesn't own anything.
Yeah.
The creator of the modern NBA doesn't have one iota of equity. But some guy who made a bunch of money off like fast loans. Oh yeah, 1/30th of this incredible international sport that has arrived after years and years and years of cultivation. You just showed up with a bucket of money. Cool, you own part of this.
And if the NBA does start on the 22nd and LeBron James is upset about it, rightfully, he's tired, and he doesn't have his vacation with his family, I think in a few years we'll see the effect of it. I think he's has the agency, not the literal agency, but the agency to shift this idea that you're talking about, being like, hey, I want more ex-players to be kind of ownership groups of these teams because we created this thing and we are smart enough and rich enough, like we want in. And I think he's going to come back to 2020 and be like, you guys made us play during the pandemic. It wasn't safe, and you guys made us play, and we're back to take what's ours.
Right, like look at, okay, I'm just using Joseph Tsai as an example. The salary cap was 115 million this year, right? For each team, roughly in that vicinity, I think. And the salary cap is arrived at because it's 50%.
Yeah.
It's half. So Joseph Tsai, for owning the Nets, his cut was exactly the same as the entire salary cap for his team. Joseph Tsai, guy who may not be able to touch net. What did he get? He got as much money as every single player on the Nets. That's what he earned off of the Nets. He earned as much as every single player, despite being a non-net toucher.
A safer example would be the person he bought it from, Mikhail Prokhorov, because Joseph Tsai is complicated by race and relationships.
You can
in
use
China.
whoever. I'm using him because he just bought a team.
Sure, and he's a unique example because I think there's complications there, but
What?
race and
What does it have to do with this?
I think race has to do with everything and ownership and his relationship to China and the Daryl Morey thing and the revenue they receive from China, the TV revenue and their links to that country, and why they accepted Joseph Tsai as one of the bidders of this team was definitely related to that. But that's a whole different conversation.
I mean, I could see that being the case, but it still doesn't change the fact that he has not touched a net.
I don't care about that. I think people should. Maybe he loves basketball more than
Doesn't
anyone.
matter. Doesn't matter.
But
so do you. So
I
do
would love to own a team.
Of course, but you don't.
But
why aren't you allowed to? Why don't you get a team? Why don't I get a team? Why?
I think
what makes Joseph Tsai more fitting of an owner of an NBA team? It's just money. That's what I'm saying. It's just money. He hasn't contributed anything. It doesn't matter if he likes the sport. We've been potting for years about hoops. Give us a team already.
Yeah. I mean, we've been having this debate for also years, and I think in a free market, anyone, if Prokhorov wants to sell to Joseph Tsai, he can't be like, you can't touch net. He'd be like, yeah, whatever. You can have it. If the NBA approves you in this board, I'm out. So anyone who bids can have this. I think LeBron James's power is he has the money now. And I look forward to seeing his effect on ownership and the way the game will get better. But
then we also get the Michael Jordan dynamic where you become part of the same system. That's the problem. You're just elevated with enough money and clout to switch sides.
Jordan's a unique person, though.
Well, he certainly is, but he has not brought player autonomy as a major.
No,
he's just like every other owner because
which
he's
I
an
love
owner now.
Because he's like Lil Wayne and Kanye West being like, why can't I just be a self-interested rich American? I'm like, okay, fair.
I don't think he should have different standards applied to him. I just mean there was no turning point where MJ became an owner, and I fear the same thing would probably happen with LeBron, even if he is more cognizant or more interested in being a vehicle for change. It's kind of, it's the Jay-Z thing. Oh, I'm Jay-Z, I'm an executive, and I'm going to buy all your publishing. And you just do what was inflicted upon you, and you become part of a mechanism of that same machine. My thing here is just that I think the owners should get 10%. Like that. Just like, here's my solution. Players get 90% of the money. Owners get 10. If you don't like it, sell the team.
I feel like the solution is, hey, if you want a winning team, you can spend as much money as you want, and that eats into your cut as in profits because you're going to have to spend it. So you can save all your profits if you want. Go with that. But if you want to say like an unbelievable team, like adding Giannis to the existing Clippers team, like Ballmer, you're just going to have to pay and you're going to have to outbid everybody. And I think that is like a reasonable way to do it. Also, not giving them 50% is very fucking reasonable. Paying out assistant coaches more is reasonable. Like the whole G League, put the money into the G League. But I think there's different ways to do this. I never look for a wholesale change because wholesale changes never happen. Like, did Nirvana disrupt the music industry? Yes and no. Yes, for sure. Did the iPod? For sure.
I guess what I'm saying is, if LeBron James does become an owner of a team, I doubt he'll say, also, we should get 30% instead of 50%. That seems unlikely to happen from within.
And
it would have to be from Michelle Williams and the labor side and the players saying, you know what, we're not going back in to a bubble right now. We're not going to do that unless we have a fundamental change in the split in the money. And it's kept creeping your direction for years and years and years. After every CBA, it becomes more disadvantageous to the players. We're going to flip that back, or we're going to have a serious talk about starting our own league.
Yeah, strike is always on the table, and nobody wants to strike. But that's the effective way to do it, It's also clear
that the players can just do this if they want. It's clear.
I
the
think
NBA's
so
infrastructure, especially post-corona, pretty worthless.
With technology, I think, and investors like fucking Steve Ballmer, they can definitely give us something that we kind of don't blink at, right? They could introduce a league in a year's time that we're like, whoa, new teams, new colors, Swamp Dragon 2, 3, 4, and we just be like, okay, we're down, like we've adjusted.
And we've just seen the possibility of really good basketball in like one location. The players could say, we're creating our own bubble. It's going to be at this facility. It's going to be in Disneyland again. NBA can't stop us. We're just going to build the same thing back. And we're going to strike a TV contract with a different league. With different networks.
And I think the NBA is smart enough to realize that us as fans don't care about platforms. Like, we don't care about Facebook. We've shown this in MySpace and Friendster. We move to what we care about, which is like photos and talking and usage. And with the NBA, I feel like these owners are smart enough to know that we are not loyal to them. We are loyal to them because of the players and the teams, but we can shift that in a breakneck speed, I think.
And with shout out to Free Darko, the idea of liberated fandom and the influence of League Pass and the amount of player agency, which has bounced guys from new teams to new teams all over the place, I would say that our loyalty to laundry, so to speak, is less than it's ever been. You know, like, sure, the players move around, but we just saw LeBron James win for the Lakers with Anthony Davis. Like, that team didn't exist a year ago.
Dude, the Lakers, the NBA, the Lakers...
Two guys just decided to win a title.
They tricked LA fans into rooting for Rajon Rondo. It's so weird to me. I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. It's like, oh, Rondo, is he a Hall of Famer? I was like, okay, I guess we're talking about Celtics legend Rajon Rondo, who was not a Hall of Famer, as one of the greats. Like, let's do it.
And that's the boomers' infatuation with Heat culture, is this fictional idea of continuity and organizational ethos that actually is like the reason you win, and it's not the players. No. It's not that the Sixers didn't re-sign Jimmy Butler and he went
Butler
there
walked in the door. Yeah.
No, it wasn't that. It was that the Heat, culturally, you're like, this is just a response to the fact that, like, the Lakers are a fake team. Yeah. They're just LeBron James, his buddy, and scraps. And they won a title.
Yeah.
With literally no culture, no continuity, no nothing. Like, of course you have to sit here and say, but Heat culture. Heat culture. White hot.
I'm excited for the league to start early because I want to see if LeBron James and Anthony Davis can win their first real title. I think everyone's curious about that, right? Like, okay, enough playing around. Can they win one?
When will Anthony Davis get off the Schnide?
You know, one of my favorite words is Schnide.
I mean, look, I have to say, he's a great player, but his lack of postseason success is a blemish. Can he get off the Schnide?
We're gonna see this play out. He's gonna accept his role as a Robin finally, and see if he can coattail his one championship finally.
Off the Schnide.
Schnide season.
One thing we were thinking about before, when we were just chatting about all the exciting ideas that we could talk about on Cookies Hoops, the world's most influential basketball podcast.
The perfect pod happens, but there's some planning sometimes.
A lot of it's natural. That's true. But sometimes, to make it extra perfect, we actually consider the things that we're going to talk about.
Wow, what are you talking about, actually?
Just kidding.
Okay. You had me there, though.
But we were talking about earlier, just chatting, about some of the guys who are underrated for dumb reasons.
Love it.
And those are the guys that I view as exciting prospects for the upcoming offseason, which starts in a week and a half. The guy that I'm kind of interested in right now is Eric Bledsoe.
Ooh, I was thinking. You had me going. That pause had me. I agree, man. Go on, though. What do you think?
Everyone thinks he sucks. He doesn't suck, though.
No, he does not. He's awesome.
Everyone thinks he's really bad because he's been shitty in multiple playoff series. And this is the same thing that happened with Lowry. Now, he's not as good as Lowry. Lowry is a god among men, one of the thickest. But Bledsoe's really good. He's just been shitty in playoffs. I think he was hurt this one. Yeah. The one prior, he basically shot them out of the series against the Raptors. He's not a great shooter, but that is a very good player who has the reputation of being a loser. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Get me some losers in here. Round up the losers and let's change their fate. Because Lowry was known as a loser. Known as one of the biggest chokers in playoff history, basically. Just a loser.
Had some really bad games, man.
But this is how it works, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you play a lot of playoff games, a lot of them, and it adds up to like half a season. Sometimes you're shooting poorly. Sometimes you have some bad games. You know, Terry Rozier shook Bledsoe and knocked down a jumper, and we're like, Bledsoe sucks. Like, it's just one play, man. Is Terry Rozier good? No. Bledsoe's good. And not to get into like advanced metrics type of shit too much, but I mean, this is a guy who was ranked 17th in the league by the Boston Media Mafia approved stat PIPM. I mean, just as a quick like fingerprint. This year.
Oh, man.
He's freaking good.
I didn't know that. I know he was before.
Like crazy. Top 17. Yeah. You know, by BPM, he was like top 30. Like, this is a guy he's a very good player. And part of this is being in the Bucks ecosystem. They know what they're doing. They're playing dork ball and all that. But Eric Bledsoe, good point guard that people think sucks.
Mm-hmm. I love this idea because a way to build a team is to find value in young players' picks, identifying the right thing that you want from affordable assets, and then identifying the older assets that are not sexy anymore and adding them in, like, you know, Billy Bean, Dave Justice, no sin bin, that stuff, to pair them with all those pitchers, no sin bin. And I love it because who are the undervalued guys in the league? And we talked about DeMar DeRozan a couple of episodes ago. To me, he falls into that category of you bring him up and everyone's like, oh, he can't shoot threes and his contract is huge and Toronto won without him. I'm like, he's still very good. I think of Harrison Barnes. People are like, that contract is crazy, which it is, but he's not a bad player. And it's to the point in that contract where you can add him and he can help a good team.
You had me with DeRozan.
Until Harrison Barnes.
You lost me with Mr. Barnes. Seems like a great guy.
Yeah.
But it's a big contract for a prom king / stretch four.
He was the height of PER, right? That nerd stat.
He was never great in any stat.
But he was better in PER than he was in box plus minus, and I think nerds were always trying to figure out Harrison Barnes. You know, eye test, he was fine in Golden State, but he got paid like crazy. And I don't know. He's still not. He's one of those players. To my point, you even say like Harrison Barnes. I don't think so. He's got 22, 20, and 18 left. That's not that bad.
I don't think his contract is insane. It's not good, but there's no evidence he's a good player at all. Even when you're talking about like PER, he had one season, his first one in Dallas, where he was league average. I think it was more that he was part of that Golden State team where it seemed like maybe he had upside that he couldn't explore because he was out there with other stars and was firmly like the fifth best player on that team, you know, behind Iguodala and Draymond and Clay and obviously Steph. So him being in that role felt like it was possible to expand, that maybe this was a star hiding in plain sight.
Have you ever seen him and Jeff Green in the same room?
Jeff Green was better last year.
Jeff Green had but he was with a genius organization, right?
But I'm with you. I don't think Barnes is terrible or anything like that. I mean, the last couple of years in Sacramento, he's been like a tick above league average scoring wise. Mm-hmm. He puts up some points, 15, 14 a game. Like, he's all right. But I know what you're saying. He's viewed as being bad because he's overpaid.
Yeah.
He's an okay player who is overpaid. Mm-hmm. I mean, Horford obviously falls into the same one if I'm going to talk about a Sixer, where everyone's like, oh, he sucks and he makes so much money. He's overpaid.
Yeah.
But he was fine. If he made $15 million, no one would be pissing their pants about him.
Yeah.
He just happens to make a lot, and that should not affect how you view a player.
I know. Get rid of the salary crap. We've become accountants, which is annoying. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I don't know if
as usual, yes.
No, Horford is good. Horford is good. Shout out to all the Johns out there that hate Horford, but
people hate him because he makes $27 million a year for the next couple of years. Oh, he sucks. He's not worth $27 million. Okay, what's he worth? What's the best backup center in the NBA worth to you? Yeah. 15. So $10 million difference between him being a good deal and him being someone you are utterly repelled by. Like, you just care about $10 million in annual salary. That matters to you.
Yeah.
You know who it doesn't matter to?
What?
Me and Al Horford.
You can call me
Hell.
a John. I also think of Gordon Hayward quite a bit. I mean, the BMM is still in the White House, in the media White House, and I think the Greenhouse. I'm sorry. Shout out to legendary Night Spot, the Greenhouse, which is now Boston Media Mafia headquarters.
Wow, it really all goes full circle when you think about Whip, which was the club beneath Greenhouse, which is the place where Tony Parker got glass in his eye during a brawl between Drake and Chris Brown's entourages. Is that right?
Who would... You got to think Chris Brown's entourage would just take Drake's entourage, right?
I don't know. Drake pays for muscle.
This is true, but Chris Brown is kind of he's dark. He's a dark dude, right?
But he also is like much tougher than Drake.
That's what I mean.
Like really athletic. So he might be like, I don't need to have like badass security guard because I'm pretty badass myself. And Drake has the money and the fear.
Yeah.
Where he has to hire the largest of goons.
I'm tired of rooting for the goons these brawler rappers hire and not the actual brawler rappers.
Well, anyway, the Greenhouse.
The Greenhouse that that houses the legendary gamer Gordon Hayward.
Now, can you tell me how this ties into education reform?
Listen, he didn't want any of that BLM smoke. So he chose something that we could all appreciate from all sides.
Okay, so other than the fact that you guys are both huge gamers, why are you thinking a lot, as you just said, I'm thinking a lot about Gordon Hayward. Like, why does Gordon Hayward consume you? Run through your mind with such frequency.
Because Boston always thinks their undesirable pieces are valuable to the rest of the league. But they're kind of hiccuping this offseason because I've heard the BMM propose Gordon Hayward because of his contract injury. He kind of was disappointing last season after he came back from that horrific injury. And they've been floating Marcus Smart in trades. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? These are two very good players. You've been patient this long on Gordon Hayward. This is the time where you keep him. You do not undersell him when the stock is low. And Marcus Smart got hurt and maybe didn't show up in their last game of the season, but he is kind of your best player and most affordable. So it's interesting to hear the BMM talk about these two players as trade pieces just because of vibes, because they don't fit what they think Tatum and Jaylen Brown are.
Well, it's also the same idea with Philly and Horford. It's the same kind of thing, right? Okay, there's a player on our team who's overpaid that we don't really think is good. Let's trade him for someone good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah,
Good idea. What if we take Hayward, who we don't like, and makes $30-some million, and he's got 1 year in his contract? What if we instead had a player I like?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Like, okay, Rudy Gobert for Hayward, done. Okay, now we have to address getting a number 2 pick. Oh, Marcus Smart for the number 2. We got this.
Yeah, no, that's
basically it, right?
I would like better players, and here's how.
Yeah.
Get rid of the guy I don't like.
And it's a dangerous game because someone will take Hayward and someone will take Marcus Smart. And you desperately, as a tiny leprechaun dancing who wants to reappear on that rainbow slide of the NBA playoffs, Marcus Smart is your tiny green glove.
I mean, my thing is there a team who might say, we don't really want to make a big, let's say the Knicks.
Oh.
Knicks.
Oh.
Say it. Let's do it. Knicks may not want to go and spend a bunch of money this offseason on a long-term contract because they're keeping their desk clear for
another
Kawhi.
Hillsong representative to shower the garden with more leadership.
They're getting Kawhi and Giannis together. Everyone knows this. But maybe for this season, they say, yeah, we'll take Hayward. We'll absorb him into our cap space. We're not going to give you anything. We'll give you a fake protected second rounder. We'll give you nothing for him. Mm-hmm. We'll just take his contract off your hands. Maybe that's the case. And maybe there's another team who would say, we'll overpay Hayward for 1 year and just whatever. He's okay. He can play. If we like him, we'll have bird rights so we can bring him back on a lesser salary if we feel like it. Mm-hmm. It's not the worst plan for using $35 million. I can think of better ones, but that's not the worst plan if you're trying to really make a huge splash in the 2022 free agent class. Mm. Okay, I get it. So I think Boston could move him for nothing. I don't think you're going to get anything of value back, but that's the same thing with like any lousy contract. If you can find someone to take it on, like cool, but you're not going to fix your team by dumping a contract. Like that's not how it works. Yeah. Like you're not necessarily going to get something good in return.
It's tough though. I'm confused about this because the 2022 free agent class is very enticing, and who knows, you may get something good because of space.
Right, I'm talking about right now.
Oh, yes. Yeah. This season, you're not going to get even a 50% return talent-wise on Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, I just don't see where okay, cool, let him go and then figure out a way to get Fred VanVleet under contract. I don't know. I'm saying there are a couple options, but you'd have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And same thing with Horford. and Hayward. They're both pretty good players. You might be able to find a guy who's not as good as them, who is a lot cheaper. That's possible. But there isn't a Gordon Hayward that you can just go and sign, and there isn't an Al Horford that you can just go and sign for $5 million. Al Horford costs $20 million. Gordon Hayward costs $20 million in their current state. That's what they cost.
I don't have my Ben Affleck accountant hat on, but if you put Gordon Hayward on the Heat for pieces, like that's a more dangerous team, right? Like some smart
Sure.
team will take him.
That's what I mean. And I don't see there to be any reason that like the Sixers would take him, but any
I wouldn't
contender.
be mad at that.
That's what I'm saying. Any contender to have a guy who can act as primary ball handler, a good passer, knocks down free throws,
Reform education.
reforms all the schools, knocks down threes. I mean, he's a smart player.
Yeah.
I don't think he at this point is that much better than say Joe Ingles.
Who I love, yeah, I'll
But
take it.
I like those guys.
Yeah, and Hayward's injury is a more serious injury than we all thought, as we've seen. So it would make sense that next year he would be healthier than he was this season because he just didn't look right. You just don't want to dump your chance at a run because you're tired of somebody.
Exactly. And I don't know. You're the draft guru here.
Right.
But
I mean, yes.
When you
right.
look at LaMelo Ball, is he going to go number one, or is he going to drop because people are freaked out about, say, his jumper or Lonzo's lack of success? Like, where does this idea of things that are in some ways, especially with his brother, out of his control?
Yeah,
Is that going to affect him?
It's a vibes thing, and he's falling in big boards everywhere, but not the KBB. I think he's has potential to be a star. He probably won't be, but he's an awesome basketball genius, and allegedly he's been doing poorly. They say, the BMM says he's been doing poorly in interviews, and he's not been interviewing well, and his workouts have been lackluster. They said that about Ben Simmons too, and it feels like he's dropping because of Lonzo's poor performance and the specter of his father. And these are all factors that do play into evaluating a player that we don't really know much about. But it feels like there's a heavy vibes thing going on. And you get the BMM and Heat culture people come out every 10 days before or 2 weeks before every draft saying like, well, we want players who love to play basketball and are the first ones to the gym and etc. All that stuff. He's not one of them. He's a zoomer. So I think it's the vibes. He falls into the category of Drew Bledsoe to me. Oh, my bad. Woo. No sin bin. I have to put myself in the sin bin.
Get in the sin bin. Get in there. I think there's also, dropping in the draft is weird because some guys might drop 10 spots, but someone likes them. So they don't drop at all. Oh, that's about where they're supposed to be drafted. Maybe if that one team didn't like them, maybe they drop 7 more spots. Who can say? We just don't know. So it's weird when you think of someone like Paul Pierce who dropped in the draft. And it's like, so what did that mean? It basically meant 4 teams that probably should have taken him past. And was that an indictment of Paul Pierce, or had they just had their heart set on someone like Larry Hughes?
Yeah.
We promised him. We liked him. We didn't think Pierce would be there. So Pierce drops past Philly in that draft.
The draft is never about the player. It's always about the speculation of the player, which is...
Right. I just mean the idea of people dropping in the draft is like, if someone takes Melo at 2, he obviously doesn't drop in the draft. But if someone doesn't, but maybe out of the top 5 teams, maybe only one actually likes him. I don't know. I'm just more bullshitting about the idea of like the dropping in the draft is indicative of anything other than what like teams prefer.
Yeah, and I don't hear many people talk about that. And when I say like it's not about the player, it's always about the player. Like the top 5 guys in this year's draft will go in the top 6 picks, But I think that order is up. And this draft is amazing because it kind of exposes the whole idea about why the draft is frustrating and feels like a guessing game. Because to your point, every team starting with number 1 probably likes a guy on their big board. And this draft is so lackluster, but so evenly spaced that you could just take any of the top 10 players and it would be justified.
That's why I'm thinking of Michael Porter Jr. dropping the draft. Well, every team was scared of his knee, and other people did not like probably his interviews or his family. There were things that made people want someone else.
Yeah.
So you can easily look back and say, well, here's why he went lower than you would expect for his talent. Because all these teams in this group that we would anticipate would have taken him didn't. Like, I don't know.
And
I just feel like it's not like a massive failure of evaluation when Michael Porter Jr. drops in the draft, because there are reasons.
And always people will try to talk about sin bin. I'm speaking from the sin bin.
What is going on?
But, when they say you want to hit a double instead of a home run, a sure thing double over a maybe home run. And I think of Kevin Knox, who was a project. That didn't work out so far. Porzingis was a project. He worked out. He was great. And I don't believe in getting a safe pick just because they can immediately play like Mikal Bridges. That's unexciting to me. I think you take a player like Zaire Smith. I think you go for the best player on the board, period. Not
with
the
that in
safest
mind,
player.
Yeah, well, with that in mind, I do think this offseason presents a unique opportunity for smart teams, for
Absolutely.
quality general managers, because
And
an
some
idea
luck.
of anti-fragility, that was well, we've talked about this before, I believe, but it was a best-selling book, and the idea is that there's no exact opposite of fragile by this reading, and that anti-fragile means that when everything is going to shit, you thrive. That's their version of this.
That show Billions, I believe it's called.
Is that what they talk about on it?
He makes billions of dollars during 9/11 when everyone's scurrying to protect themselves. He, like a shark, like an Axelrod, goes into the stock market and makes a killing.
Right. So it's that idea. And I do feel like this NBA draft and this really congested, tightened offseason in terms of free agency, the draft, trades, it's all so packed together that if you have a good front office, they can really benefit from this kind of upheaval, the kind of uncertainty in the NBA market. Teams who may have different plans now than they did 9 months ago because their realities have changed. Knowing that kind of stuff, I think, will be really valuable. Maybe in this draft, since we have not seen these guys play in college ball, you might be able to get someone in the low 20s that is, kind of to what you were saying before, maybe as good as the number 2 pick. Like, there may be so much more talent. Not that there are superstars in this draft. It's potentially quite weak, what people say. But it may be a really wide dispersal of talent that's very different from the sort of slope from talent to pick in a typical draft.
I love this draft so much because to me it feels the most 2020. You're right. There's maybe 1 or 2 potential superstars here, depending on what you think about 5 guys. But overall, you got long careers past the lottery. A lot of the projected 15, 16, 17 guys are going to be good. They're all good. And it sort of reminds me of a thought. It's like when I say 2020, there's not many dumb teams still out there. Of course, you think of the Knicks, the Lakers, the Hornets. But if you look closely, they've all kind of wizened up. Like the Knicks have kind of learned finally and made a small change with Leon Rose and World Wide Wes. And, it's not the same draft as it was even a year ago.
I'm wondering if we'll have guys who are taken in the second round in this draft that turn out to be better than guys who were taken in the lottery, solely because there's such a limited amount of information on guys due to coronavirus wiping out the season and the tournament. So we just are relying in some ways on high school scouting, which teams are not necessarily prepared to do at this point because they haven't been. And the information is out there. I'm not suggesting that they're not paying attention to high school players, but that kind of information about how good a guy was in high school is clearly a lot more important this draft than it was in any point since high schoolers were allowed to actually enter it.
I kind of agree with that idea, and I hope that's the case, is that as a more fun draft. I don't think it'll be what happens, and there's always going to be a Jokic and a Draymond Green for sure. We can pick one or two players out every draft, or most drafts, but I think not only have teams gotten smarter and players become like more useful to the NBA as prospects, the scouting has gotten better. Like, we're at such a point where if you wanted to do research on Tyler Terry, you could like get to the bottom of it. I don't think there's going to be many surprises at all.
Look at how many guys went from being virtual nobodies to being stars after 1 year of college, though. You know, someone like Markelle Fultz obviously did not work out great, but he's
bona fide. Yeah, he was a consensus top 5 pick.
I mean, he was for sure. I mean,
one, yeah.
He was not someone who was particularly heavily recruited, you know. And I mean, even John Morant, you know, he was not a guy who was heavily recruited. And if you took away most of his last season, you might not think of taking him with the second pick.
You're thinking of successful ones, though. And those are two good examples of successful. Fultz is a different story, but John Morant is an example of a success. There's more misses than hits. Misses are built into this draft, so I just don't think that. To your opposite point.
I'm talking about guys whose draft status changed dramatically due to playing college basketball.
I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, Gordon Hayward is a great example of that. Like, he showed out in the March Madness. He was always going to be a lottery, but he moved up like 4 or 5 spots. It's so noisy, right? It's like the success of players from last year. I think a player like Tyrese Halliburton might be drafted a little bit higher in the real draft because he reminds people of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
But did he play, again, I'm not a college guy.
He got hurt.
But he played 2
3
years, though, right?
I believe, I should know this.
3?
No, not 3. But
I think Halliburton played late. I think this was going to be his 3rd year.
Yeah, he's not young. Your boy Obi Toppin's 22.
Halliburton played 2 years. This was his second.
Okay, and he got hurt, so we didn't see much of him. I have him really, really high. He's very unexciting and slow, almost like a really, really smart Jalen Rose. But I don't know. I think, to your point where there could be surprises in the second round, and I know where you're going with this because the Sixers have a ton of second round picks. I think it's more potential of players to be failures in the second round.
Sure. I mean, I think that's true too. I'm even thinking about guys who don't even get drafted. I mean, granted, they played most of the season. They just didn't play the tournament. But I don't know. There's something about not having the tournament. I know that is more of a perception than reality thing.
Yeah.
But,
and not many players make the tournament. But the big recruits are all there usually, except Ben Simmons.
But right, or Markelle Fultz. But basically, without the tournament, but you also got to think about this 9-month thing. That's real too. Mm-hmm. You know, 9 months, kids grow, kids get better. Like there may be some real gems that don't get drafted or go in the second round. I just feel like the uncertainty is beneficial if you know what you're doing. And that's not because the Sixers have 5 second rounders. I don't know what they'll do with them. They'll trade them or whatever. But I don't know. I think this is a very interesting draft because of the chaos.
Yeah, and I believe it's 50-50 that, and the other 50 would be, since we have no information, this draft is being broken down in a way that's like, I think just technology, and it's exciting with footage, and people are just getting smarter about basketball and being able to identify useful traits in these young players. So is a normal draft without the coronavirus, with a tournament, the March Madness tournament, is that when to strike? Like, you want to play lotto when there's not a big Powerball, right? Because your odds are better. Everyone's sleeping on the lotto, the actual lottery. You don't want to play when it's big and everyone is buying a ticket from their bodega. It's sort of like maybe a sleepier draft. If the coronavirus didn't happen and we got a regular NBA season, the smart GMs pounce then. Now it's just like, well, the jig is up. Everyone's red. Moneyball 7 more Moneyballs.
Oh, true. I also just think that there's going to be a curve, right? As you said, most teams have gotten smarter, and
By accident, even.
I mean,
Just replacing dudes in the front office.
yeah, it's just natural. Most teams have smartened up. I mean, it happened in baseball, happened in
Yeah, for
basketball.
sure.
It's going to happen in football, if it already hasn't. I don't know.
Kind of has, I think.
But I still do think you will have
No, same
teams that are better prepared and teams that do a better job. But
Yeah.
I would agree that there is less of an advantage in being smart in the NBA now than there was 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Which makes okay. The question is, does it make a better thing to watch or a worse thing to watch? Because people complain about no sim in baseball as like this unwatchable thing with all these relief pitches and shifts. I think it's amazing. It's like more moves. Is basketball just turning into like a bunch of small ball teams?
Well, it kind of makes me think of that AOC versus the centrists debate where everyone just blames what they don't like.
For sure.
You know, it's like, oh, what's wrong with the NBA ratings? Well, I'll tell you. It's all the Black Lives Matter stuff. That's what the problem is. Do you like Black Lives Matter? Oh, no, definitely not. Or even, we do it. What do you think is wrong with the NBA ratings? I'm like, I'll tell you. It's these announcers who are boomers. It's the goddamn boomer announcers. It's the boomers. They hate the sport. They hate the players. No one wants to hear that shit. Do you like it? Oh, no, I don't like it at all. Like, is that why their ratings are down? It's always what you think. Like, it always dovetails with your particular view on the game.
Thick crust
So
pizza is taking down big pizza.
So if you're someone who's annoyed by the current NBA for whatever reason, you're going to say that X is causing Y.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like it. Everybody just shoots threes.
They're not tough enough.
So you love, what, mid-range jumpers? Yeah. Well, that was a lost art. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure, man. Yeah, that was great.
It's because these players are becoming more empowered. They get to choose what team they go to. It's like, are you...
Not enough spin moves.
Yeah, boomers who complain about player empowerment are always fans of teams that players leave.
It sucks the way that LeBron left Cleveland, but came back to Cleveland.
Exactly. The Heat, oh God, player movement. Oh, Jimmy Butler, we love player movement.
Count the votes, but don't count the votes, please. Well, Cole, I gotta say, that was a perfect pod.
Again? What? We are on a roll of rolls. The roll.
I'm just
I love cookies.
ratified that
I love cookies.
you're in the Biden era. You're still perfect. Like, we were unshakable. I thought that maybe, the stress of Trump leaving office would have an inverse impact on our show. It didn't happen. Still perfect.
The country has made a turn, but we've always been about that turn culture.
Cookies.